Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Tim Zexer. I'm the Director of Advancement at Lutheran Family Services, and we are so pleased that you are with us today. There'll be some more folks, I think, coming on in just a minute here. We also know there are numerous people who are very interested in learning about how they can help, but cannot join us today. So we are going to record this Zoom meeting. So if you all just want to mute yourselves, that will help us with our sound quality. And we'll absolutely have some time at the end for some questions. So one additional pivot, which is kind of interesting and exciting news that we can talk about. Unfortunately, our CEO, James Horan, is in New Mexico today due to the gravity of this entire situation. He is meeting with some local officials down there and activating another resettlement site for us in Santa Fe, which Santa Fe will join our Albuquerque and Las Cruces offices to aid resettlement efforts in New Mexico. So, unfortunately, James is down there today, but joining us will be Jane Pope-Meehan, our VP of Development, Victoria Norton, our Colorado Springs Regional Development Coordinator, Floyd Preston, our Refugee Program Director in Colorado Springs, and Brittany Carroll Hatcher, one of our fantastic case coordinators in Colorado Springs. So they will have more than plenty information on all of the things that are going on. Today, our agenda will be, I'm happy to provide just a quick refresher on the scope of work that we've been doing here at Lutheran Family Services for a number of years in our refugee, asylee, and SIV services, as well as some other services related to that. Then I will ask Jane to come on and talk a little bit more about how we got involved on an agency-wide scale in the Afghan resettlement that we're in the middle of. Floyd and Brittany can hop on to give us an update on exactly who is being resettled and how many. Our timeline with this issue is always evolving, so they can give you the latest timeline on some of those things, as well as talk about the services that we are providing. Services we provide pre-arrival, what arrival looks like, and our ongoing case management. And then I'll invite Victoria Norton to come and join me, and the two of us can talk a little bit about opportunities and resources for faith communities to get involved. So once again, thanks so much for joining us. We are going to record this for others who can't join us today. So thanks for being on mute during the presentation, and then we will have plenty of time afterwards to answer some questions. So quick refresher, within our refugee and asylee program, we serve traditional refugee families, those who have left one country, enter another country and go to a UN refugee camp, and then are resettled in a third country, being the United States and being in Colorado Springs. We also have served asylees, those who leave their primary country and come to the United States, then to apply for asylum here. And then special immigration visa holders, which we will be talking a lot about today, people who have worked with the government in certain ways. Afghanistan is certainly one of the areas where many SIVs come from. So they have a special partnership with us because of the work that they've done with the US government. We also do work supporting victims of trafficking, victims of torture, and that's a slightly different classification. And as well, we can provide legal immigration services to a number of other groups outside of the ones that I just mentioned. But part of why we have been invited to do this work, which Jane will talk about in just a minute, is because we have been working with an SIV population from Afghanistan for many, many years now, and also traditional refugees from Afghanistan from many, many years now who are resettled in the Colorado Springs area. One is even on our program staff. So this is a population that we're very familiar with, and we are honored to be asked to serve this group. So that's just a refresher on who we are as an agency. We also do work in foster care, disaster relief, older adult services, which is called Life Work Aging Solutions, and some prevention education. And we have a wonderful KPC respite center in Colorado Springs. But today we're talking mainly about the Afghan resettlement efforts. So I'm going to turn it over to Jane Hope Meehan. She is our VP of Resource Development again. So Jane, thanks for being with us and for giving us a little bit of history on how, as an agency, LFS was invited to do this work.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. I appreciate it. And thanks to all of you who have taken your time to join us today and to learn a little bit more about the situation that we're finding ourselves in with the Afghani people at this point in time. So yeah, just as Tim said, you know, we have been a human service agency since 1948, long time. And we started our refugee resettlement office in Colorado Springs in 1975. So through the years, we've really built quite a reputation in helping and resettling all the people that Tim just alluded to. So, you know, we have people know about us nationally and locally as well. So we work very closely with ORR, Office of Refugee Resettlement here in the state. We also work closely with LIRS, which is sort of our parent umbrella group, Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Services. And there are within that, under that umbrella, there are a number of different Lutheran connected agencies like ours around the country. And so we, you know, sometimes work together but lots of times independently too. So, so we have many connections with not only our Lutheran network, but state and federal officials. This is kind of a new thing for us with the Afghanis. You know, we will be seeing SIVs. We will also be seeing HPs, humanitarian parolees. And our challenge at this point, one of the challenges that we're looking at, there are a number of challenges, is that they are not funded as well as SIVs or our regular refugee population. So as Tim said, that's constantly evolving. We're looking for to try to find all sorts of funding sources, whether it's funding through private people, through our congregations, through our community and church partners, or wherever that might come from. Really looking for assistance monetarily, as well as things with, you know, furnishing apartments, all kinds of different other needs that they will have. And I'll let Brittany and Floyd do a deeper dive into all of that. But yeah, we're really asking everybody to consider what they might be able to do to help us successfully settle these people who have helped our government and now need some help themselves. So I think with that, I will turn it back to Tim. And again, thank you all for joining us and being a part of this.
Yeah, thank you, Jane. I would love to invite Floyd Preston and Brittany Carroll to our members of our local Colorado Springs refugee staff to share a little bit about exactly some of the timeline that is evolving, as well as the services that we are providing. And let me just give a special thank you to both Brittany and Floyd. As you can imagine, these two are incredibly busy, but they have carved out time for us to kind of share what they are doing and around this issue. So thank you, Brittany. Thank you, Floyd.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for being a part of this. Brittany and I will tag team on this. We've been doing a lot of calls, a lot of media coverage, and many things on the subject. As Tim so eloquently talked about the type of statuses that we serve, the situation that we have currently is that we're no strangers to serving SIVs, but with everything that has happened in Afghanistan, it's a sad thing to say that we don't know of how many people of the Afghan parole status were actually SIV folks. It's not separated anymore. They're all lumped into one, which is sad for those folks because some of them helped our military tremendously. And because of everything, processing, places where they got processed, they had to flee. So everything is kind of all over the place. But with that being said, currently, as Jane said, many of these individuals do not receive the same benefits that refugees normally receive. These individuals will not be eligible for Medicaid. They will not be eligible for TANF. They will not be eligible for food stamps. They will not be eligible for those things. One of the things that the State Department will be doing is mimicking our reception and placement program, which is a program that most refugees receive when they come to the United States, where they receive at least about $1,000-something per individual to help with housing costs. Well, they're going to mimic that program, but as you know, in Colorado Springs, rent is very expensive. So that money is going to run out in at least in 2 to 3 months. So what we are tasked to do is to fundraise so that we can have money that will cover the duration of their 6 to 12 month lease. The other problem we have is that many of our friends are not work authorized. They are applying in the locations that they're in the United States. Some are in military facilities, but not all of them are applying for that and have to apply once they make it to their final destination. We are connecting with pro bono services, also our partners here at Catholic Charities, and also within the ILS department within Lutheran Family Services. And again, we do not have any information as to how that process is going to work. But because they're not work authorized, that make it extremely difficult for them to integrate as effectively as others has in the past. So our needs are, number one, rental properties. We're looking for rental properties. There are some that have come forward and have donated space to us. So rental properties is number one. Number two, gift cards for Walmart, MasterCards, Visa cards, because they're going to need immediate needs. Again, they're not going to have the traditional services that refugees normally receive. So therefore, we're soliciting for that. What are some of the other things we need? Also, we need storage. We need we have 2 storage units right now that are very small. We have been looking for like a small warehouse, not a large one, but a small warehouse where we can house and be able to differentiate our soft goods from our hard goods. And it's just been very difficult with all of the donations that's trying to come in. So we're in need of a storage unit so that we can organize and be ready, not only for our Afghan refugees, but for our entire program. We are needing rental assistance. So we have been training cultural mentors and also co-sponsorships, whereby whole teams can kind of adopt the family, if you will, where they can pay for the rent and help them out. So we've been doing trainings on that. So those are some of the basic needs that we need right now. As far as numbers, we have no idea when they will arrive. They can arrive today. They can arrive next week. We are being told by our national agency, LIRS, that we just need to be prepared when they come. And even when they come, they still have to go through a vetting process. We still have to take their documentations and make sure that they're legitimate individuals to receive the very limited services. So I wish I had more numbers for you. That's what everyone wants to know. But unfortunately, we do not have any numbers as to when or how many will come. But we are ready. We're gearing up. We're fundraising. We're talking to partners, local partners. We're talking to our our co-sponsorships. We did a training last night of over 150 individuals that we were able to touch and explain our program to. So we're hoping things will come out of that. There have been individuals that have donated resources for rental assistance and things like that. We expect more to come in, but at this time, we are kind of just getting prepared and hold on to dear life because the flood is coming. So that's where we are. I'm a pitch this over to Brittany and see if she wanted to add anything to anything that I've said or anything she would like to say.
Sure. Thanks, Floyd. I think you covered most of our needs pretty clearly. And so I would just add, I guess, one of the ideas that we are speaking with several people about is co-sponsorships. And so Floyd gave a little bit of information on it, but I just wanted to expand upon that. So we're thinking maybe groups like a church or another community organization could co-sponsor families as they arrive and help provide some of these initial supports that will be needed once the funding runs out. So we're thinking about raising funds to cover things like extended rent, to cover funds to help with medical expenses, to help with purchasing food, things like that. And so we're looking for groups to come to us and say that they are willing to possibly co-sponsor a family, and we can talk next steps from there. But we're thinking there would be that financial component in addition to setting up a cultural mentor team to help support the family in addition to office staff. And so those teams are groups of 4 to 6 individuals that help support the family as they, adjust to life in Colorado Springs and work to integrate. So I think Floyd covered our other needs well. So I guess maybe Tim, I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you, Brittany, and thank you, Floyd. And thanks for sticking around a little bit. If any of you have additional questions, especially on some of the case management that we can provide and we do provide, please feel free to kind of either drop those in the chat or stick around when we're all done. They can talk a little bit more about that. As Floyd and Jane both mentioned, there's depending on classification of folks, and they're all kind of coming together. Some of them are qualify for certain types of case management, I believe, and so he can answer all of those questions, and so can Brittany after this piece. So what I would love to do in just a second here is just share my screen here on exactly some opportunities to get involved. We have put contact information. You'll meet Victoria Norton in just a second. Please feel free to reach out to any of us. In fact, I will even drop these emails into the chat in just a second. But I want to pick up exactly where Brittany left off and talk about ideas for financial support. As Floyd mentioned, housing in Colorado Springs is sometimes a challenge, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But even just to support an Afghan HP family for 8 months with housing and food and a number of and case management, we're estimating that this is just an estimate at about $25,000 to support an Afghan family for 8 months. At that point, our great staff, Floyd and Brittany and others, feel confident that we can get work authorization in that time and then help them become self-sustainable. So that is, let me also just say $25,000. Brittany was talking a little bit about some co-sponsorship ideas that comes with cultural mentorship, but this number was really not necessarily sponsoring one specific family, but more our encouragement to some congregations to support the whole local effort. But if you want to think about it in terms of what it costs us to support an Afghan family for the 8 months until we know we can get work authorization going, that's about the figure of what it costs. We also know that a number of congregations, this is out of their ballpark. There are big congregations and small, to break it down. 5,000 is more along the line of what it costs to support an individual Afghan for that number of time. One idea that we have been kicking around with a number of churches who say, we would love to support a family financially. Again, that to support this effort financially is partnering with their neighborhood churches. There are different collections of churches across either in suburbs of Colorado Springs, or even just churches from various neighborhoods who are considering partnering with each other. So that is one concept and idea that as church leaders you might want to consider. Then a couple of other things. We have been in conversation with some churches across the state on a possible simulcast type of event. This would be a multi-denominational storytelling fundraising effort. So potentially even hosting a luncheon after a service later in the fall, live streaming an event, and inviting people to stick around after church to learn more about this. So these are just some ideas, some benchmarks that we are encouraging churches that if they really want to move the needle, especially with within this issue, that they consider some of these. So that's just the monetary support opportunities. I'll turn it over to Victoria Norton for some of the non-monetary ones that Floyd mentioned earlier that she is going to expand upon.
Hi, I'm sorry, I'm having internet troubles today. Yes, so we do have the non-monetary support that we are able to give. As Tim said, that $25,000 amount can seem overwhelming. So there are other ways that we can get involved as well. One is the employment connections. As Floyd and Brittany said, our goal is to have self-sustaining members of our community. So we would like to be able to connect them with employment opportunities as well. We will have the time period while they're working on getting their work authorization paperwork figured out. But we are always looking for people who are willing to help us with employment. Housing leads, we did talk a little bit about the need for landlords in apartment buildings and housing for our families. We do know that some people have offered generously to open up their home, but we would really like to prefer to put them in independent living situations right away. So that is our goal. So any leads that we have with people who own apartment buildings, own rental properties, things like that, we would love to be connected with them in hopes that they would be able to work with us as we do. We're not looking for free housing. We're raising the money to pay for their rent. So we want to make sure that we can give them safe places to live. As Floyd and Brittany both said, storage space is one of our highest priorities right now. We have so many people who are interested in giving us items for homes, things that we can use. We just can't use them today. So we need a place to put them that is safe and centrally located. This could be somebody who has a storage unit willing to give, have somebody that they're willing to give, or they may be able to pay the rent for a storage facility for us for a year as we work that out. Floyd also mentioned having a small warehouse that we could use. That would be an incredible opportunity as well. And then the volunteer opportunities, Brittany and Floyd have done an incredible job of handling people who are coming in right away. Some of the cultural mentoring Brittany's already mentioned, and we've had a ton of people just this week who have been trained. So we will always take more of those teams and volunteers. And then they also talked about having kind of a rapid response team for mobilization. As Floyd said, we don't know when they're going to arrive, but when they do, we want to be ready to go. So these are people who maybe with a little bit of notice can come help us move things from our storage facility into a new apartment, get a family set up on arrival, and get them a nice house and apartment ready to go. And then the gift cards for immediate needs. Those are things that you can talk to Brittany Carroll about, and then Matt in the refugee office as well. They can help you with all of that. Thanks.
Okay, there you go. So hopefully that helps as well. I've seen some good questions in the chat that we're going to get to in just a second. Additional resources, I'll also drop this into the chat as well. Just more ways to help, or even just if you want to visit this site to connect people with these opportunities, but lfsrm.org, and then this partner with LFSRM is a great place to send people for more opportunities. But we are also happy to help. You know, Floyd and Brittany and their staff are going to be are already very, very busy. But Victoria and Jane and I are very happy to help. If your faith community is looking for speaking opportunities, we have some of our staff is able to do that. We also have some other folks who are able to do that, some other community partners that would be wonderful to be able to frame this issue, or even educational opportunities. I know a number of churches do adult forums or adult ed or anything like that. We can do those virtually. We can do those in person for the most part. We also, Victoria, the other day, shot a video of Floyd and Brittany and their team moving in an Afghan family who has been in the pipeline for a little bit longer than a few weeks, but a family from Afghanistan just moved into Colorado Springs. If anything like that is something that you could use in your faith communities to help us tell this story, we are happy to share some of that, those resources with you. And finally, again, Victoria and I are more than happy to continue the conversation with you about how we can provide even more resources for your community to understand the gravity of this issue and what is happening. So with that, I will stop sharing my screen if I can do that, and turn it over some questions. The first one I saw, I thought was a fantastic question. We have been using a lot of Christian-centric language in this presentation, but this is much bigger than a Christian issue. We'll be reaching out to all sorts of faith communities, all sorts of faith traditions to be a part of that. Part of our history at Lutheran Family Services is that a number of our partners, very close to us, our longtime partners, are Lutheran, are Protestant, Christian, but this issue is far bigger than any one tradition. So absolutely, thank you for bringing that up. That while we used some Christian-centric language in this is absolutely something that is bigger than any of us, and we're excited to invite all sorts of traditions to be a part of it. So are there any other questions? Feel free to unmute yourself or even put them in the chat as I'm looking at those come in. Well, I'm going to pause the recording of this, but I think Floyd and Brittany and Jane are all able to stay on for a few more minutes. So really, if you have any other questions, please let us know. And ultimately, the most important thing, I actually said I would put this in the chat as well. I'm going to quickly put in the contact information and the ways to give again into our chat. So you have those. But like I said, our team is willing to stick around here for a little bit for anyone who would like to stay and has any questions for them. Lyman, that's a wonderful question about the difference between an SIV holder and a humanitarian parolee. Floyd or Jane, would you like to expand on that? It ultimately has to do, yeah, well, I'll let Floyd talk a little bit about that.
Right. The difference is eligibility. Most SIVs, when they come to the United States, have they have the opportunity to get their green cards within 45 days of being in the country. Their socials have already been applied for. The red carpet pretty much has rolled out for them. With the Afghan parolee, a humanitarian parolee, SIV, the humanitarian parolee Afghans, they don't have that same benefit. Okay. And we don't know if because the conflict happened and it involved such an enormous amount of people at one time, and the most safe thing was to get them out of there versus processing their paperwork, we don't know. But the main difference is SIVs are eligible for services, the humanitarian parolees are not. And right now, they're being dealt with at the state level. Our national agencies are fighting for them, fighting with Congress and everyone to try to get this overturned. But as it stands right now, they have been unsuccessful. Hope that helps.
Thank you, Floyd. Appreciate it. Any other thoughts or questions? Feel free to put them in the chat. Like I said, I'll pause the recording, but we appreciate everyone being here. We'll stick around and thank you for reaching out to us, and thank you for partnering with us in this important work. And again, one more big thanks to Floyd and Brittany and their whole team for the things that they're doing. So thank you all.